Episode 1.
No, jeez.
Trailers.
Yes.
Teasers, trailers.
Stand off quite a bit. And then the films, they're like, oh, we've all this test audience. Oh my god, oh my, someone on the internet said that was a bad idea. Let's change it. And it's just like, and then it goes tits up, or else they just go, Zack Snyder, what do you want to do? And he goes, well, like, obviously, you know, Superman is renowned for being like the blue and red and American colors, and you know, even his nickname in the JLA, if you the character is Big Blue. Awesome. So what do you want to do? I'm going to bleach all the fucking colour out of the film. There's going to be 17 million windows smashed, and that's kind of going to be the last 20 minutes. It's just going to be smashing windows. Because
fuck Windows.
Yeah,
of course,
because I once knew someone who was killed by Windows. So yeah, this is my. And I go, oh, okay, that's fine. And it's because he bleached the colour on his first few films, and then like I think it's almost
It's stylized, like, okay.
It's but like. Yes, stylized doesn't mean good. Like, you know, polka dots are stylized too.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
On the Suicide Squad one, it's the first movie I ever saw, which I knew it was a bad movie, but it didn't make me angry or sad or anything like that. I went into like detective CSI mode. I was like, I need to know why this is so bad. It's like coming across a body and going, I must investigate, and started looking.
Why did you have to investigate? It's the point where the Joker shows up and you're going, oh, right. Well, I don't know if that's just because I know the Suicide Squad stories and stuff, and it's like...
No, but like, investigate...
It was barely in it as well. It's mainly flashbacks.
Yeah, no, it's purely there because people have to understand, Batman!
Yeah.
Batman means Joker, and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, like... It's like this whole thing of like... if somebody turned to me and went like, you know, we want you to write the next Batman film, and I'd be like, great, I need you to sign a piece of paper right now to say I don't have to explain the origins of Batman. Because nobody should have to fucking explain the origins of Batman right now.
I have a long-running joke of like, I've seen Batman's parents die so many times at this point. I think I've seen Batman's parents murder my own parents together.
Oh, it's just ridiculous though. It's like, I don't need... Fine, Green Lantern, not everyone's going to know the origin. Fine, Aquaman, not everyone's going to know the backstory.
Yeah.
But Batman and Superman, I really don't need to know how they got to where they
Superman's name is his backstory. He's a Superman.
Yeah, it's...
Spider-Man too, that's one that's been done countless times as well, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's just, they just don't want to drop the license. It's like they're basically playing a game of... It's like they have a... You know when you were like 5 years old and
trying to keep a balloon from...
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. You got to keep the balloon up in the air, like, because if it lands, then Marvel come along and go, no, our balloon, and just walk off with it.
Well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when you said there's so many different types when it comes to video games, because we had this discussion earlier where you have your cinematic trailers, then your in-game footage, but then you have the in-engine footage. Yeah. So and you're not entirely sure. Yeah.
And the lines blur between all those.
Exactly.
I was saying the first time I was sitting in a pub, which was really weird, and I saw a trailer come on for Vice City, and it was in-game footage in the corner, and I was looking at it because I played San Andreas and I played GTA 3, and it was blaring Welcome to the Jungle or something, and I was just watching it, like helicopters flying, guys walking in the street, but no attempt, like it was 100% in-game footage. It wasn't the best graphics in the world. I was just staring at it going, that is 100% in-game footage, and I swear I've been to all those places, like in different GTAs. This is 100% the game, and I was looking at it going, yeah, I better pick that up.
The one for me though, like there's kind of like, I have a few just noted here because it's like the different examples of each. So the one with the has gameplay, I think we were looking at this the other week, was the launch trailer for Dark Souls 3. Now I'd played, I in my head it's always Dark Souls 1, but it could have been Demon Souls where I first tried to get into the series, because I'd been a fan of From Software from their previous game series when they did the likes of Armored Core and stuff like that, and I was just like, you know, I was like, great games, and I was like, let's try this, and it's like, and obviously someone said, no, it's really hard, you got to be wearing, I'm like, alright, well that's fine, like I love stuff like Ninja Gaiden and all that, like let's get this right. And I got killed by something very early on that I had no way of knowing was coming, and that pissed me off, because I was like, you've just done that, and I've been running for 10 minutes to get to this point, and you've just done that, and that's just kind of, you're just kind of lengthening the game. Yeah. And I was like, fuck this. I don't have time for this. I have so many other games to play. And I just kind of dismissed it.
The idea you turn the computer on and just folding your arms and putting on like the same episode of Buffy again. You're like, this is stupid. I'm a busy man.
Well, no, it's like, you know, everyone's Steam library has more games in it incomplete.
Yes,
complete.
Absolutely.
So it was the whole thing where I could be playing something else and not being arbitrarily killed because the game designer wanted to make the thing 10 minutes longer. So and I just kind of was like, I didn't have time for it. Whatever mood I was in, I was like, no, fuck this. And then like Dark Souls 1 came around and everyone was like, it's amazing, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. And then like and then number 2 and
No, you're
were like,
stupid.
yeah. And then number 2 came out and everyone was like, oh, it's not as good as the first one. I was like, ha. And they're like, what? And then I was like, I don't know, just ha. But then I saw that the number 3 was coming up and everyone was going on about it and I was getting huge reviews and I was like, oh, probably should go back and just give it another chance. I don't know, I'll give it a look. And I watched the trailer, which is the launch trailer, which is Ash Seeketh Embers. And the only bits that aren't pretty much in-game footage were there's a couple of bits with text.
Yeah.
And it's done and it's like it burns and then it like the ashes blow away. And I was kind of like, okay, and I watched it. And it uses, and there's a song in it and I was like, that song is amazing. And this trailer is amazing. Holy fuck. And I look up,
really good trailer.
And I look up the song and I'm like, it's Hosier.
Oh,
But I've listened to that album and it's not that, it's kind of alright, but it's not amazing. And then I was like, oh, it's only on the limited edition version of the album. Oh, okay. I don't know if that's actually made me more or less biased towards this trailer now. Where before I was like, if it had been on the normal version of the album, which I'd listened through and then watched it, I went, oh, they used him. But I was like, that actually works really well, and I like the song more because of the context in the video.
Yeah.
And I was like, and because the song has influences from the story of the start of Dante's Inferno and stuff, and the whole one man's descent into hell, and I was like, well, that's kind of suitable for a Dark Souls thing. I ended up picking up Dark Souls, and I was like, right, fuck it, I'll buy it. Bought it, played through it, loved it. I've gone back and played the others since, and I was like, and now that I've actually like, okay, I was more in the headspace for them. I know I have to be in a very specific mood to play those games. I have to be like, sure, like I'm feeling kind of masochistic today, like
power bottom masochism, yeah.
Yeah. So, but and then the other type then is the ones where you don't have, it's that the series is so big, you know what it is. We don't need to show you anything.
Yeah.
Now, there is some that like the ones that still use, anime, like they use in engine footage, as you say, would be like the Gears of War ones. Now, obviously, there was the first one. It showed a bit of combat, showed him fighting a corpser and some grunts and stuff like that. But the one that got me was that for Gears of War 2, there was 2 of them. There was one which was The Last Day, which is a song called How It Ends by the Vodka, and it's them sitting in a field, waiting to go into battle. So it's like the calm before the storm.
Okay.
And you have like Dom sitting there looking at a picture of him and his wife, and even there's a bit where it's Coltrane is looking at a flower through a sniper rifle scope, and they're all just kind of relaxed, and the music again is relaxed, and it works because obviously the design principle behind all, like the visual design principle behind all of the Gears of War thing has been destroyed beauty, and it's even that whole thing of like there's nothing destroyed in that picture, but it's him, even like the fact that he's admiring this flower through a sniper rifle scope. I was like, that's nice. And then there was another trailer that came out alongside it, which is called Rendezvous with Death, and there's no real music, and there's a drum track that builds behind it, but it's actually a recording, as far as you know, of the poet himself, Alan Seeger, who fought in World War One. And it's the poem is, I have a rendezvous with death at some disputed barricade and all this, and the trailer has combat in it, but it's not in-game footage. And just how that worked, the trailer, and like it was just the drum track starts off really muffled and it's really quick paced and it builds up and builds up and builds up, and then it stops very definitively, and as the drums stop, it basically ends with Marcus Phoenix charging into battle, using a locust as a meat shield, and as and guys start firing at him, and as the drums stop, like there's a bit of kind of dum dum at the end, and the camera just stops and cuts down, as if like you don't know what happens. We're not going to tell you. And the other one then, just for like when it doesn't use in-engine footage or anything like that, in the Halo 3 Believe campaign. Yeah. So by Halo 3, everyone knew what Halo was. Yeah. By Halo 3, my dad was playing Halo. Yeah. So it was, you know, everybody knew what it was. Everyone was aware of it, and they did a series for the Believe campaign, which was
Just on that real quick, my friend's dad used to play GoldenEye as stress relief. He was a very stressed man. He was on so many different medications for blood pressure and stuff. And we used to go over to his house and he'd go, And he used to make Meccano, he used to make jigsaws, he used to try to do anything to get his mind off it. And sometimes he'd just go, actually, I'll stick on the shooty game. And he'd sit and he'd play the train level of GoldenEye over and over and over again. Classic. And as the guys popped out, it was like a little shooting gallery for him because he'd already have the crosshair exactly where the dude's head needed to be, and he'd pop him. And I could see him just walk through that level without taking his finger off, move forward. He just like and he'd play it 3 times in a row and go, I feel much better now. Go back to his everyday life.
This is the type of guy who, like, you know, he's making a sandwich, he's slicing a tomato, and it feels very therapeutic.
Come over, he's suturing it back together.
Yeah, just I want to cut it again. The Halo 3 Believe campaign, like, so.
Then is Dead Island, which is
that's another one.
To me, is the greatest trailer for the worst game.
Yeah, that's.
Which makes the trailer even better.
I mean, the thing about Dead Island is Dead Island does the job of selling you the game so well, but then didn't release the game.
Well, if we're doing trailers, it is the best trailer I've ever seen. It's the one that I saw and got like really excited because it starts with a girl lying on her side of the grass, ostensibly sleeping, very like. Again, starting with a child in a field seems to be a good way to say we're human. This is about humanity.
I like the Gears approach. For Gears 2 was to start with what is essentially a giant slab of meat in a field. Because that's all they have. There's nothing else in those things. It's like, you know, it's what does your game look like? Well, we have these guys who are fundamentally like 6 foot wide.
Yes.
And 5.5 foot tall. And it's like, okay, it's like, yeah, our art designer had a stroke. Sure, go with it. It's unique, it's stylish, and what do your bad guys look like? They kind of look like, you know, a Cenobite meets Rocky Dennis from Mask. Sure, cool, let's go with that. Like it's
the kid stuck oatmeal to a He-Man. That's kind
of
but no, in the Dead Island one, it starts with the kid lying down. I don't know if it's in a field or on a bed. Oh no, she falls out the window, and then
it's grass.
It all goes slow motion backwards, and it is this. Again, it's a better short movie. The whole series has a better short movie than it does any game. But it's her very slowly coming back, and bits of glass start reforming and comes up, and has fallen out a window, but like the window reforms and she comes back and she's on someone's shoulder, and then you see a guy with an axe and a girl in a bikini with blood dripping from her face, and it's all moving backwards, and I
thought half of it was. Does it not end at the midpoint? Does it not intercut between the start of the trailer and the end of the trailer?
And then it's events moving forward and events moving backwards and events moving forward, and the point of the guy picking up the little girl is where they meet. Yeah. The point of her getting to the door. And it's this really, really poignant thing where you're so invested and you're seeing both the aftermath and the lead up to it. And you don't need to explain zombies. Everyone knows what zombies are. You don't need to explain what's going on. The background is in this beautiful resort. You're in paradise. Zombies have taken attacked. It's very poignant but driving music, and you're just watching it going, this is amazing. Like, clearly this is going to be story driven. Clearly this is going to be about the human aspects. Clearly this is going to be like there are some games that surprise you, but there are bits in Red Dead Redemption that I really felt like, well, this is some of the best storytellings. This is some of the best human drama. This is some of the, like, even the some of the song choices. I'm like, this is really emotional. So it can be done. And I was like, if they're using zombies as the setting, it's not something I've seen before. The game was just fucking shite.
Well,
it was terrible.
Here's the thing. Is the game shite, or does the game seem shite because the trailer made it seem so amazing?
No, it was shite.
It was...
if that game had come out and you hadn't heard about it beforehand, you hadn't seen that trailer, and someone turned to you and went, "It's playing a game the other day called Dead Island. It's not actually that bad." Yeah. And you went and played it, would you have been like...
If the game was called Zombies in Paradise and the trailer was like about like a TV show from the 90s about, like, you know, in a world where zombies are just a quick shamble away. These merrymakers had to fight. If it was that, I'd be like, I'll play that game. That seems like a thing.
I guess at the end of the day, the advertising department did their job.
Oh yeah, people bought
maybe want to buy the game. Yeah, bought it.
But that's what I'm wondering. Like, did that? Okay, so say that game got a Metacritic review of 70. I don't know what it is, just off the top of my head. If it pulled a number out of Mars, it got a review of 70. would it actually have gotten a review of 80?
Absolutely.
If
the
the original trailer was gameplay of you running through baseball batting zombies in the head with Andrew WK's Party Hard playing in the background, which would have suited the game more. Yeah. Like, would suddenly people be going, you know what, it's really fun, doesn't take itself too seriously, seems kind of a laugh.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
Like, you know, the doing your job and then doing your job for a different game that you never actually made is kind of.
So, every so often, this one of the ones I'll go back and watch that trailer every so often and go, remember how good that trailer was? Watch it and go, I can't. But in my head, I still go, I can't wait for that game to come out.
That's the thing. When I was looking at my list today, I was like, there's no point in doing Dead Island. Someone else will mention it, or if not, it'll be the one of like, and at least they didn't do a Dead Island. Like, so. General, they do very good promotional work for it.
On your point there, those little 15-second spots and even shorter 10-second spots, I love watching the American Horror Story ones.
Yeah. And
there's entire YouTube ones of like you can do the entire seasons of them, and they'll do 30. They'll do loads and loads of little short ones, and it'll be a nun drenched in white standing in a room while a gimp stands on a wall so that there are perpendicular angles like an Esker painting, and then he opens his mouth and white fabric comes out. And then it just comes up AHS. And you just watch it and go, brilliant! What? What?
See, I'd see that and I'd just be going, is this a perfume? Because perfume ads are always fucking ridiculous. It's like you're trying to convey something like that you have to smell with it through a medium that has in no way interacts with your sense of smell. So I'm like, yeah, I have no idea what's going on here. Like, so.
But for the Asylum series and for the Freak Show series, they did a brilliant stuff. Even for the Coven series, and but there'll be ones I'll watch them now, and it'll be like weird sounds, really really annoying. If you're just finished watching an episode of Friends and you're going to watch an episode of Cheers, and then you see a woman's mouth open, a centipede crawl out and crawl into another woman's mouth, and then it cuts back to Cheers, you must think you're going insane.
Yeah,
a schizophrenic episode because you're like, what just happened there?
Mom, the TV's gaslighting me again.
And they're starting a new series now, and I'll probably watch it. The last series wasn't the best, but I'll probably stick it on. But like, I'm watching it for clues. I'm watching the thing to try to figure out what could possibly happen and what they could possibly show me next. Which kind of leads into the next one. So again, TV shows aren't ones that would traditionally have trailers. So this is more of a promotional campaign for something. But I really really like the TV show Fringe, which was out in 2008. It was a J.J. Abrams and Fox show.
Joshua Jackson, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it kind of followed on a little bit from X-Files and Lost and a little bit of Twin Peaks and...
Yeah, for some it scratched that X-Files itch though, didn't it? The whole Mulder and Scully
kind of... definitely did, yeah.
There was an X-Files dynamic. It's got one of my favourite openings as well, where the girl's lying in bed with like this other dude and they're clean-cut FBI agents, and just as she gets out of bed she goes, you know, I really love you. And I was like, he's dead. He's absolutely dead. He dies. Absolutely he dies. It's like that. I've seen her in the promo campaigns. I've never seen him. That fucker's dead. But for their advertising, they started doing radio spots for Massive Dynamic, which is the company in the TV show that is the stand-in for GE.
Yeah.
And they were doing like spots for cars and then spots for like these new medical procedures that can make you 8 feet tall and things like that.
Yeah.
And just making these claims were fucking ridiculous. But over them was like this whispering voice to go to imaginethepossibilities.com and all this weird stuff. And it was an ARG. It was an alternate reality game that they started doing, and they've done them for Halo, and they've done them for Dark Knight. And it's to drive people to a certain website, and I think that it was a very clever way of doing it, because if you've got something that's niche, that's sci-fi, thriller, mystery show, you can sell that to people and it sounds fun, but a certain kind of people will just go hell for leather for it. They would absolutely love it, and then word of mouth will spread.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, ooh, are you watching this? It's brilliant. So I do love that they were driving people to this website, that then there were all these case files that you could find and see crop circles and sheep acting weird, and none of it made a lick of sense. But for a particular kind of person, again, it scratches that itch, and they just started kind of going, what could it mean? And it ended with a big event in New York City where there was a big... They sold it as a scavenger hunt, but this was just the finale of the ARG, where a lot of people just figured out the clues, figured out the coordinates they were supposed to go to, and they met on Times Square, and this Massive Dynamic company had a little stall set up, and everyone was like, hello? And I was like, hello, are you here to, possibly be an agent? And they're like, yes. So they gave you a little pack, and it was, a map of New York, a bottle of water in case you got thirsty, you're going to be doing some walking, and like all these bits and pieces. And you started doing it, And then like people were online chatting, and somebody eventually realized that if you read the ingredients on the bottle of water, it had far more ingredients than you would expect in water.
Okay.
And after a little while going down through them, it started giving you the clues, and you realized that the map you've been given wasn't what you were supposed to be doing. You were supposed to be following the label on the bottle of water. And then you were like on the roof of some building and something else, and you went to another place where there was just a cow in the middle of the city with irregular patterns on it, and it was a QR code on a live cow, and all these crazy things. And eventually you ended up on a rooftop somewhere watching the first episode, the pilot episode.
Oh,
of
that's
Fringe.
actually very good.
And they gave out lots of goodie bags and lots of swag and stuff. And to me, that like the idea that he would start with little radio spots and end with that, and you're like, yeah, get out there and tell people. And he was like, you'll never believe what happened. I don't believe you. That's incredible.
Episode 2, intros. I think that's just the way Pixar do things though.
Yeah.
It's like, let's whatever you got the best idea in the world, we'll still find a way to improve it.
Yeah,
true.
It's kind of annoying. Bunch of pricks.
Bringing me beautiful art and all up in my face. What do you do?
We'd go up there, but we'd hit up one of the shops beforehand and get like one of the few shops still left that did like quarters of sweets. And you get a few quarters of sweets, and you go in and you literally spend the day just watching all the horror films, like classics like Exorcist 3 and all these type of films. And we'd always have one or two new ones and one or two horrendously bad ones just to watch for a laugh. But this particular year we were like, we actually see if there's anything up in the cinema before we go. And, all right, cool. So let's check, and we looked at good old teletext, if you remember that. Jesus. Yeah, I know, that's how long ago. That's how old I am. But yeah, we look up teletext for Cineworld up on Parnell Street, which is down the road from where he was living, and we see there's a film adaptation of House of the Dead.
Oh, I was really worried you were going to say Cabin in the Woods as a bad
film.
No, worried there for a second. Okay.
No,
so this is the U-Bowl.
No, that was the thing. Uwe Boll's first film.
Yeah.
And we were like, House of the Dead. Let's look this up on the internet. So we put the laptop and we're like, some guy called Uwe Boll. Never heard of him. Which, he's become like the warning flag of this is going to be an awful fucking film.
Yep.
We're like, fuck it, we'll go and see it. And it's got, what's his name? He's one of the Howard brothers. His brothers. So, director of Apollo 13.
Ron Howard.
His brother.
Right.
Who was in like the original Star Trek. He's a little small guy, and see he's in it, and we were like, such and such in it. Jurgen Prochnow's in it, and we were like, Jurgen Prochnow, great.
Yep.
And we go and see it, and the four of us go up, like 4 or 5 of us go up, and we sit down to watch it. We're like, fuck it, we'll see how it's like. From the first 10 minutes of it, I thought it was meant to be a comedy.
Really?
Because the dialogue had us laughing out loud. And there's a bit where they're on a boat going out to an island where there's a rave on an island where this House of the Dead thing's going to happen. And they're on the boat on the way out. And Jurgen Prochnow is the pilot of the boat. And I was like, that's a nice little nod because he was in like Das Boot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Grand. And there's a sticker on the wall of the cabin that says the beatings will continue until morale improves. And I'm like, okay, this is very much like a comedy film. I like that because it's a computer game adaptation, and it's a computer adaptation of basically an on-rail shooter. It's not going to be something. It's not going to be Oscar material, but if they're doing a comedy version, it could be quite funny. And then about 10 minutes in, I realised this isn't meant to be a comedy. It's accidentally a comedy, just because of how fucking awful it is.
It is bad in a way that's confusing.
Yes.
I saw that sitting at home with people, and we knew it was bad. We knew it was famously bad, and we were still watching it. When things were happening, we were pausing it and looking at each other going, what the fuck did he even try to do there?
Yes. And like, I remember, because it was, Halloween had fallen on the weekend that year. It was like a Saturday or something. And we went up to an early showing. It was about 10 to 1 or something. And when we went in, there was about 50, 60 people in the cinema. And by the end of the film, there was maybe 14 people left in the cinema.
Oh, Jesus.
Just the majority of people just got up and left. But I mean, it needs a mention because that opening sold it as a comedy. Because we went in knowing nothing. As his first film, we had no idea how bad Uwe Boll was as a director. We had no idea how bad his films were going to be. And we didn't know if this was comedy or not. We just saw the name and went, that's based on a zombie game. Yeah. Could be interesting.
I was listening to a podcast that have a fantastic, it's not even a conspiracy theory, it's just a theory about Uwe Boll, that he is, the way he works is it's like the producers. He gets a certain amount of money to make a movie, and somebody who has 20 million but is going to lose 5 million to taxes. Give him the 20, maybe not 20. Give him the 20 million. Let's use as an example. He puts it into a movie, and then they get like, it doesn't do anything. It gets about 20 million back, but they can take all that as profit and they don't lose their 5 million. So there is some theory about how he is doing this. But like buying a video game IP is a really cheap way of getting just some people to get it. Like some people come along, and I've watched House of the Dead. I've watched some of the Blood Rains. I've watched just some of his other movies. Name of the King.
Alone in the Dark.
Alone in the Dark. And then I watched Postal, which is good. It's fucking surprisingly good. And every time he does a joke, I'm like, that's a really dangerous joke. That's a really sketchy joke. But it landed really well. Like, that's good South Park style humor. But I keep thinking he must have done that by accident. And each joke that lands, I'm looking at it going, oh my god.
The broken clock is right twice a day. Like,
and he does enough jokes in it that land, and I'm like, is this guy funny? Like, this is ridiculous.
2013, and then it was 2014. It was released on.
It was Tomb Raider. It
was Tomb Raider. It was a Microsoft exclusive on Xbox and that. In 2013, and it was rebooted in 2014. And it's all about how Lara Croft becomes the tough, no nonsense.
It's about her rise, if you will.
Yes.
I don't know if that's useful.
So what? At the start, they're on a boat. They're trying to find this island. They find the island. Storm blows the ship onto the coast. The ship starts to sink. She gets separated from her friends. Now, in the first 5 minutes of playing this game, you smash your head off about 6 objects. It just seems to be the thing. It's how she navigates the world. Yeah. Like, so I don't know if she's blind. Some blind people.
It's like echolocation for her.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's like, bang a nearby surface and listen to the echo, and she just smacks it with her head. But there's a part in it where she falls down a mine shaft in the very first 5-10 minutes, and she gets impaled on her lower left abdomen, and she's limping because she's bleeding. And then shortly afterwards, you get to your first campfire, and she pulls it out, and there's a big scene, and she's like, and she bandages herself up. And then through the magical healing powers of the fire, she's fine after that. It's never noticed again in the rest of the game, okay?
I'm pretty sure I've seen her in a belly top since then.
It's just disappeared, right? So she's got the thinnest bandage ever underneath her tank top. But I heard a theory that when she falls down the mine shaft before she impales herself, she actually dies at the bottom of that mine shaft. And the rest of the game, with her becoming an absolute badass, and there being like a magical angry god on the island, and her like suddenly becoming like basically running around for 20 hours, being able to climb and shoot and swing her way without feeling tired or hurting herself, and falling through many a trap and banging her head off many more things without dying, was all her brain misfiring as her body runs out of oxygen as she lies dying on the bottom of a mine shaft. Yep. Now, it's a pretty fucked up idea, but at the same time, the game makes a lot more sense all of a sudden. Once it gets that, it's kind of like your life flashes before your eyes, but her life was pretty boring, so it's more like, this is how I want it to be.
Yeah.
And it's like, she just, so the whole kind of, there being a god, and obviously, it's like this weird mystical entity that she's trying to deal with, and and it's that entity's fault that she's on the island and she crashed. You could almost, the thoughts of a dying person. It just really makes me think of that film, The Escapist.
Yeah.
With Brian Cox in that, where it's actually, most of it is actually just his brain misfiring and all the rest. I just think that, like, as an intro, when I go back and I see that intro, suddenly it all makes sense. Because it's almost as a moment where
it's not just, and
that's the lethal head. Yes. That's the lethal head wound, and from now on, it's all a hallucination. We're totally fine, and it actually makes sense.
Again, this is another personal one. Is Silent Hill 2, the very start of it. I didn't notice anything about the start. I played through the entire game, but I bought the special edition that came with the making of.
Okay.
And I watched it afterwards, and it's one of my favorite games. It was one of the ones that I think is the most powerful game of all time. It told a story you shouldn't be able to tell with video games, but it managed to do it perfectly. But the intro sequence in that, they make you walk down a path into the town, and it's about 7 minutes long. Like, it's a really long distance to walk. There's things to look at, but nothing happens, and you just walk until you get to the town. And the guys were saying that they did that on purpose because they really wanted to give you the feeling that you couldn't turn back, that no matter, like, you were playing this game, you were invested, that if something bad happens and you want to run away, there's no turning back. You just walk for 7 minutes. You are isolated. There is nothing. Like,
it's not like you can just like, oh well, I'm only like 2 minutes from the motorway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like you've already invested a lot of your time in this, and when something bad happens, you're like, I gotta keep moving forward. I've already come this far, and that's the contrast. Is one where you're right in the middle of the action, and the other is the slow build up.
I wonder with the Silent Hill thing though. Like, I mean, I think that's part of why Silent Hill 2 works so well at the start, is because it's about 20 minutes before you see anything.
Yeah.
And you had that in the first one as well, but the first one, it kicks off a little bit faster.
Yeah, you see like a motorbike crash. There's an implied motorcycle crash, and there's a kid on the road and stuff.
Yeah, but your first transition, the first siren, which to this day, that's like Pavlov's bell. That still creeps me the fuck out.
All that fucking klaxon.
Like that has the with the second one, it has the thing of it's lulling you into a false sense of security almost, because I think you're expecting it. They have to change something up.
Yes.
Like they did it with Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2, I remember I played Resident Evil 1, like, late at night, the lights off, which is the worst idea.
No, definitely, Jesus.
Yeah, like particularly I think it was like 14. I'm like, play this. And I played through it, great, but I knew when I see a typewriter, I'm safe.
Yes.
Typewriter equals safe.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 2 comes along, I start playing it. I'm playing through, I get to the police station, I get into the typewriter room at the police station, and finally my asshole unpuckers and I'm like, okay, I'm safe. And I go out the other door in that room, and as I move around the corner, it's still in the room with the typewriter, a licker runs across the window.
Yes.
And I had to put the controller down and leave the room for about 10 minutes. I was just like I wasn't ready for that, because up until that point, it was like, the sun rises in the east, sets in the west, water is wet, and a typewriter means safety. And they just changed that, and I'm like, no, I can't handle that right now.
I know people who swear they've never played video games. No, I never really got into it. And I said, remember we watched the Resident Evil movie, and those fucking lickers. Like, you have played them. It's like, I thought I blocked it all out.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's an enduring image, and then when you actually see the liquor for the first time, when you go through that door and you go around the corner in the corridor, and the thing's sitting on the ceiling, and you're like, oh, this is going to be a thing. Yeah. Because again, in the previous one, you were never worried about what was above you.
There was no above you.
That's the thing.
You had tank controls.
Yeah, it was. It made things interesting, like, and then again, it's like they did it again. That's one thing I like about Resident Evil, is that they managed to reinvent it a few times. You go to Resident Evil 4, and it's like, okay, so now we're in somewhere in Europe. Yeah. And you're moving along, and you're like, okay, so these people are going to be zombies, and so what the fuck did just come out of his head? And it's again, you're like, holy shit, that's like a 10-foot reach. It's like you're used to like, I'm miles away from this guy, and look at all this ammo it's giving me. This will be easy. And you pop someone's head, and a thing grows out, and you're like, well, that's meant to kill you. Again, you've changed the rules.
All you ever teach me is shoot them in the head. That's where the monsters live.
That was one thing I really liked with Dead Space as well. I love the Dead Space series for that whole thing of computer games up until that point have trained us, particularly first person shooters, third person shooters, have trained us, aim for the head.
Yes.
And the whole point of Dead Space is, do not aim for the fucking head. Like, take the limbs out. It'll kill you. It'll save you so much ammo. So we worked out. We did a playthrough when it first came out. Me and my friends were sitting there after we played through and actually in experienced it as a single player event. We played through it and we went, right, what if you only go for headshots? Just to see if you can like take them down by headshots. And you start running out of ammo very fucking quickly. If you only go for the limbs and take the limbs out, and it even says the first time you find the gun,
it says
it's written on the wall in blood, shoot off their limbs.
Yep.
And we were like, okay, and we went, and when you go for the limbs, you're never at risk of running out of ammo. It's only when you panic and you revert to the primal gamer instinct of center mass, go for the head. That's when you're like, oh, you're fucked now.
Yeah.
It's if you lose control, that's when you die. If you maintain your composure and go, no, I'm gonna take his legs out first to slow him down. I'm gonna take his arms. It's still a tense game, but it's perfectly survivable, which is just a great bit of design work. So, like, don't be afraid to take a mechanic or an aspect and go, yes, this works well. We don't need to fix this. I don't like that approach that like Bethesda seem to have but everything has to be ours, or everything has to be the way we do it. It's like, well, no, not everything does have to be like that. It's the same with like the crafting in Skyrim. It's like, well, how do I know how this works? Well, eat it. What do you mean fucking eat it?
That was incredible. The first because Skyrim was great, and the first time I picked up a butterfly, I went to use it, and he goes, "You ate it," and I was just sitting going, "This is a different game than I thought it was." You gained health. That's fairly straightforward.
Exactly.
You cured your vampirism. I had what? I had vampirism? For when? I think the opening of TV series, and in fact the pilot episodes of TV series, the ones that really jump out at me are the ones that have the mystery box. The one that J.J. Abrams has done a whole TED talk about this idea of the mystery box, of setting up something that, you know, grabs people, and, you know, David Lynch calls it the golden goose, the question, the central question that needs to be answered, and you set that up in the pilot, and then arguably never reveal it, never explain it. So that to me is something that just hugely appeals to me. But the one that I think encapsulates that well, it has the right amount of mystery to it, is the first episode of Battlestar Galactica, the 2004 series. I really loved that as they were doing it, they'd set up these rules, and I'm like, I'm so invested, I know the rules off by heart. And then they just break them a couple episodes later, and like, okay. And I was so fine with it. I was like, we can't tell that they're human, or we can't tell that they're not human. I was like, didn't her spine glow when she has sex? Just have sex with everyone.
Just, you know, engage in a relationship, you know, and it's like, I think it's time we do a reverse cowgirl. I can't, I'm sorry, it won't work. It's you're obviously a fucking Cylon then. And actually, yeah, the whole thing, over the course of the series, it's revealed that so many of them I was a Cylon and I didn't know, and it's like, and your fella never noticed? I mean, what's going on here? Like,
he was busy, alright? He
likes it blindfolded. Yeah. It's like, alright, fair enough. So Fringe will be my main one. Partially because, so I'd heard a lot about Fringe, and I was the most skeptical person on the planet going into watching that. I am a colossal X-Files fan.
Yep.
So it was like, it's a new X-Files, and straight away I'm like, no, fucking isn't.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you sit where he sat?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm like, you can never replace him. And then it was like, oh, and it's the guys who made Lost, and I was like, that's not a positive.
If you already have one middle finger up, and the second middle finger starts going up.
At this point, I'm like punching walls. And I'm like, ah, and then they're like, you know. And it's got Pacey from...
Yeah.
I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, right? I'm like, okay. And heard, no, it's really good, watch it.
Yeah.
Now, I watched the first episode, and I was sitting there, and if I'm honest with myself, and when I rewatched the series, because I've rewatched it twice now, when I rewatched the series, from like 2 or 3 minutes in, I'm like, oh, now I remember why this is a really good show.
Yes.
But the first time I watched it, I was like, no, I still don't like this. Like, even half an hour in, when I'm like, this is really good, I'm like, no, it's shit, it's still shit, but I'll watch it till the end anyway. I was the most begrudging bastard on the planet watching that thing. And it was, part of it is because, so, for me, the defining features of the X-Files has always been the female skeptic, the male cynic, but who's actually like
Dreamer,
a believer.
kinda, yeah.
No, a believer, but has... What I now realise to be like the entire foundation for my sense of humour, because I'm watching through the X-Files now, and I have to say, even though I was a huge fan of the X-Files growing up, and I religiously watched it was the first TV series that I ever went, I need to set an alarm to make sure I don't miss this.
Yeah.
I can't go to whatever because the X-Files is on.
Yeah.
It was the first TV series that ever did that for me. I never watched them a second time. Because in a way I was kind of afraid of, like, is this just nostalgia?
Yeah.
Will watching it a second time make it shit?
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck it, bit the bullet, I should say, and I started watching them again a few weeks back. And they're as good as I remember.
Yeah.
And I'm grand. But now there's so many jokes and so many sarky one-liners from Fox Mulder that I don't remember, because it's the episodes, the scary parts, it's the exciting parts that jump out to me, but it's actually his sense of humour. I'm like, oh, that explains so much about me. And where I got all that from.
His whole character is supposed to be that he's been researching this stuff for years and years and years, and the sense of humour works so well with that character.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where it wasn't in the first season, it was in the later season, where they open an attic to go up there to investigate something, and a dead body falls out, but it's so heavily decomposed it's nearly grey. This horrible mass slumps out, clearly a body, and they both stand there for a minute, and Mulder just goes, Do you think the fall killed him?
Yeah, but it's even like there was a couple of lines in it that I'm noticing that I think were improv.
Yeah.
And because David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson had worked so long together at that point that it was just fine. There's one episode called Detour, where it's not even they stumble across an X-File. They're driving to an event, right, with another set of agents, and it's another male and female set of agents, and they're really cheerful. They're going to a team building exercise, and it's like, you know, they're Mulder's in the back seat, and every time they're like, you know, have you ever been to one of these? Like, we go every year. And he's like, no, strangely enough, I come down with a very bad case of diarrhea this time every year usually. And then you're just kind of like, all right. And you can even see like Gillian Anderson's like trying not to laugh, you know, because her character, she's meant to kind of scowl at him, but she's trying not to laugh. And then like they stumble across the next one. And there's a bit where he's injured, right? And they're like against a log. And for body heat, she starts pulling him over, and he's just like, and it's just kind of half-assed, like, no, I don't want to wrestle. And it's just, like, that's amazing delivery. Like, you know, he doesn't try and like drive the joke home. It's just real kind of, no, I don't want to wrestle. And it's so well done. And I'm like, you know, that explained a lot of my humor. So I was like going into Fringe, I'm like, it's got to have that sarky sense of humor. It's got to have the sense of humor where it's just out of nowhere. And they introduce, they introduce Olivia Dunn first. Anyway. All right, fine. Go for her first, cool. And same thing happened with the X-Files. The X-Files opens with Scully being brought into the assistant director's office. Like, so I'm like, all right, cool, this is fine. And I'm like, yeah, we're following the same thing, and it's very much a homage to that first episode in a way. And I'm like, great. And then they bring in Josh Jackson's character, and I'm like, okay, right. And Peter Bishop, we're fine. And again, I have this holdover from fucking. Every time I see him, all I hear is, I don't want to wait, just in my head. Like, and I'm like, yeah, and I'm like, all right, fine, right, we'll see how this goes. And I'm like, okay, this is fine. And then John Noble as Walter Bishop is a fucking masterpiece of acting.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, I look at him, I'm like, Denethor? And then there's a bit in I think it's in the first episode or the second one, because they did a marathon to catch up. When I first watched it, it had already been on for like 2 or 3 weeks on Sky, and then TV3 got the rights to show it as well. But part of their deal was they weren't allowed to get ahead of Sky.
Yeah.
So what they did was they started like, and you have to start a month behind, and you're not allowed to get ahead of them. And they're like, all right, fine. So they did an opening night marathon of 4 episodes and caught up, and then they were just the next day.
Yeah.
So if you didn't want to watch it on the Friday, you watched it on the Saturday or whatever. Or no, if you didn't watch it on the Friday, you watched it on the Sunday. They were 2 days after.
Yeah.
And I was like, so I watched the marathon, and it gets to the bit, and it's like a second episode, I think it is, and they're driving along in the car, and Walter's like, they're sinking real deep in thought and, you know, discussion, and Walter's like, oh, and they're like, what's wrong? He goes, I just pissed myself. And he's like, what the fuck is this? Like, and that made it. It was his character, and as it went on, it was really well developed in that. But like in the opening, his character, and then the fact that they just go balls to the wall with the disturbing visuals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like the translucent skin, the people melting on the plane. And I'm like, cool. And it has Lance Reddick in it as well, who
love Lance Reddick.
Yeah, like I'd seen him in Oz, and he was fantastic in that, and he shows up, and I'm like, Lance Reddick's in this.
And that was about the time The Wire was pretty big as well, wasn't it? So
it's just after, it's just
so
after
for them it was a pretty big, you know, kind of
big get to get him, and I was like, yeah, okay, and like I said, like I was all the way through, I'm like, no, I don't like it. There's another episode, great. I mean, shit. Okay, I guess I'll watch it. I only have about 100 other channels. I suppose I can leave this on. But yeah, it was, for me, it was an opener that like it had a lot to live up to for me.
Yes.
Yeah. And it managed to hit all the right beats. And like you said, when it introduced your man, and it's like, and he's like, I love you, and I'm like, oh, he's so dead. He's so fucking dead. That guy is. Yeah. He's either dead or deformed. Yes. At the end of this episode.
I was like, he doesn't look like he's going to turn into the bad guy, so he's probably dead. Right?
Yeah, it's one or the other. Like, and it turned out to be kind of both.
Throw the water at the mic and leave it. I just go refill it every time I have a sip.
What do you think, Kev? I can't believe your mic has stood up this long. This is ridiculous.
I can't believe you got flamingo glasses. Claudia's been trying to convince me to get flamingo fucking glasses for the house. And it's like, no, nobody gets flamingo glasses. Why would you do that? And I'm seeing them everywhere now. Everywhere.
And now we have the intro to the episode.
I went to IKEA, and I also like to suck cock sometimes, so I got flamingo glasses. that's that story.
You
like that?
Well, I think there's your intro.
There's your intro.
Fantastic. This episode we're looking specifically at protagonist intros.
Yes.
We've found yet again that something that's very easy in movies and alright in video games is always very difficult in TV shows. They are very, very different media.
Because you got to build your character. Or, like, it's not like in a film where I have 2 hours to introduce a bunch of characters, make you identify with at least one of them before putting them in danger or breaking their heart or whatever the genre of the film is, and then wrap it all up. Whereas with a TV series, like, we're commissioned for how many episodes? That's loads of time. We could even end on a cliffhanger. It'd be great.
My protagonist intro is Arrested Development, and it's Michael, because I was trying to figure out. I was like, well, what is it where there's a character that stays absolutely true throughout an entire season? And the opening sequence to Arrested Development, first of all, opens with voiceover, which I think is the cheapest way of establishing a character. Yeah. But as doing this as part of an extras, I've realised that every choice I've made involves a voiceover. That there's something ridiculously...
Shit, I've got a voiceover from movies as well. So.
It actually is, and every one of them tries to do it in kind of a subversive way. But the thing I loved about Arrested Development, it is an ensemble cast, but in my opinion, Michael is 100% the protagonist because everyone is introduced in relation to Michael. Literally in relation, in that they are relations of him. But literally, like, everything is, this is his brother, this is his... Every single other person uses him as a straight man. He is the ultimate straight man. Everyone bounces off him.
Well, I was just going to say, like, everyone else is so wacky in that show. Yeah. And that's what's interesting about him, is that he seems so dull, but actually he's just normal.
Yes.
Yeah. But he seems really dull compared to the rest of them.
And a really good straight man like Michael, or like Hal and Malcolm in the Middle, is the person who's the one that, like, everyone else is the wacky one. It's not the person who jumps to mind as the wacky one.
Hal is pretty crazy, though.
Yeah, he's fucking lunatic.
When he built that robot that shoots bees... Laser-targeted bees. When Lois went away, right? When he lost
famously, when they started, Hal was supposed to be the absolute nothing character. Like, the whole point was that everything revolved around him as the kind of tent pole that, like, you know, he would be the one holding everything together.
The first episode, did that not open with him standing in his underwear in the kitchen with his back being shaved by Lois or something?
I don't think that was the first episode.
And the kids were like eating cereal and there was hair in it and shit. I just remember it was early. I think it was early in the series. It established Hal quite nicely, I think.
That might be a bad example, but now I'm remembering all the weird shit Hal got up to.
Yeah, like my favourite one is the one where he just runs into the room and it's like, who wants to make $5? and then you hear his Lois going, oh my god! And it's like...
Oh, he says, you're a good son.
Yeah, it's like, make it 10, you're a good son. I got him, honey! It's like, I'm like, yeah, that's... Yeah, like, in some ways, I think it's... Malcolm in the Middle became almost like The Simpsons. When you first start watching it, you identify with the kids, and as it goes on, you start identifying with him more. No, his stuff is more kind of out there, and even just his one-liners and the stuff that comes up with, like, and then we move in.
Using Community as an example, there's a bit in the first episode where Jeff Winger, who is like straight white dude, like that's going to be your base. You've seen this dude before. You've seen him in 100 other shows over 100 years. This is your protagonist guy. But there's a bit in that first episode where he just turns to someone in the school, like an older black lady, and wonders something aloud. She goes, I don't know, and walks off, and he's like, I'm sorry, I was raised on television. I was expecting older black women to always give me advice. Yeah. And you're like, that was me.
I'd probably be a little bit sassy while they're at it.
Yeah. And you're sitting at home going, that's me. I was expecting that as well. Yes. You are my stand-in. Thank you.
Yeah. So that's it's that whole identifiable character. Michael is that as well. It's the... You know, come with me on a magical journey. Like
in Buffy, they nearly do it in the title of the show. It's like, Buffy, okay, the Vampire Slayer. What?
You know, but like after the first few episodes, you thought that was normal, but people still scoffed at like Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. Like,
yes.
So, you know, fucking double standards here.
Written down, and they just cut the head off a chicken and dropped the chicken's body, and the chicken's body was just flapping around, running around, whichever thing it fell on, they were like, oh, that's what we're going with. Yeah. And with CSI, you can't help but imagine that they had a few different categories of things, and they were just picking.
I'm sure they had like their wheel of murder, like a wheel of fortune thing. Yeah, you get 3 spins on the wheel. Yeah, it's a beheading in a sex dungeon with a cucumber. Yeah, and it's like, all right.
Our victim is a Miami socialite.
Yes,
this is a money maker, isn't it?
Always all throughout the series, anyone else in the street, when they do something, they're like, I didn't do that. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know nobody by that name. And they're always trying to like pin the blame on other people. Omar treats himself like a brand. He wants everyone to know. If Omar's it's like Omar hit us up and he took all our money. It's like, well, we can go after him, but it's Omar.
Yeah.
And he becomes this like he's almost like the bogeyman, because then you get his proper intro. So he comes in, he busts in, he shoots one guy in the leg after he won't talk to me. Basically kneecaps him with a shotgun, and like has the rest in there, and they lift all the money and they walk out. But the next time you see him is they're planning another quick robbery. And you have the little 10-second planning.
Yep.
And he's walking down the street, and this is like his proper intro, because they've teased him.
Yeah.
Oh, go quick snippet. Now you're gonna pay attention when he shows up, and he's walking down the street and he's whistling.
Yeah.
And he's not. He has the gun, and the gun is held flat at his side.
And it's kind of an alleyway, right? There's a tall buildings either side.
Well, no. He makes them run into the alleyway. He's walking down the street because he's actually to scare the guys to running around the corner where his other two mates are waiting.
Nice.
And he's walking along, and he's whistling on this there. And everyone on the street's like, Omar Coleman! And everyone, even the kids, are running. Because they're
That's
like,
why it was interesting when he said he was a brand, because they are just shouting, Omar's coming on, and
Yeah,
everyone knows
and
what's
everyone's
up.
like-
Everyone knows
"Hey, it's
exactly
Omar."
what's going on there.
Everyone's like, hey, it's Omar! And everyone's, well, what Omar? No, there's only one Omar.
Yeah.
And everyone fucking scatters. And, like, but then it's like, so it was great intro, brilliantly, like, you know, the whole thing of, it was coming back to the trailer thing, they literally did a trailer for him before they made him a main character. They did that little snapshot of him planning, they did the little, like, 2-minute stick up, and then the proper time you see him is when he strolls down the street, and he's like, he walks down and he fears no man.
Yeah.
And it's like all the others, it's like whenever they go to do a hit in the early part, like they put the hood up or they drive up and they shoot and they run, he strolls. And he has a swagger to him. And then even like as the character develops, like there's so many times where like he'll say something and you're like, that's brilliant. Like, so there's like, as the thing progresses, you find out he's gay, and his lover is one of the other guys in the crew, and that guy is then caught and tortured, and they're trying to find out where Omar is, and that sets off like a revenge thing on him, and he becomes this like he becomes this relentless force in the TV show.
Because it wasn't his background that he moved around a lot, but he actually settled in this one area because of that almost like vendetta he had against that particular crew,
that whole idea was that he didn't have a fixed home because he didn't want people to be able to track him.
Yeah.
He referred to himself as being in the wind rather than being homeless. Right?
And he's also, he hates people swearing.
Right.
There's one point he gives out to his boyfriend for swearing.
Yeah.
He's like, nobody wants to hear that coming out of your mouth. And it's like, it's this weird kind of moral code. And then there's a part where he testifies.
I was only watching this scene on YouTube yesterday, man.
Right,
It's
so when
good.
he testifies and he walks in and like wears something with a tie, and he's wearing this amazing like big tracksuit, like dress tracksuit, and he's got like, and it's black and red, and he's got this like cream tie just kind of wrapped around his neck. Right?
But like, it wasn't tied. It was like the tie was if you imagine, it was kind of folded in half, and he just puts it around his neck and
pulls one half through the other.
Pulls one half through the other and tucks it through.
And that's it.
So it's just like it's really primitive.
And when he walks in, he like
like,
flaps it at your when you said like wear something with a tie.
Oh,
like
that's brilliant.
But and even before he immediately goes in, like they're like, why are you doing this? And he's like, you gotta have a code. And they're like, what do you mean? He's like, as he says, I never put my gun on no citizen. So as far as he's concerned, if you're not in the game, and the game is the drug dealing business, the thing. If you're not in the game, you are not a target for him. He will never put his gun to you.
Yeah.
So it's like he has this weird moral standing, and it's the but when he comes in and he and even before he comes in, it's like the little thing to illustrate how good the character is when you're sitting there. The guy sitting opposite him is like one of the bailiffs, and he's doing a crossword, and he gets stuck, and he's like, not coming together for you, and he's like, Mars is the god of war, isn't it? And he's like Ares, the Greeks call him Ares. He's like, and it fits, and he's like. So I loved about them myths growing up was, I used to love reading them and all the rest, and it's just left at that.
Yeah.
And then he goes up and goes in and he sits down and they're talking to him and they're like, why would you do this? And he's like, it's because you don't put your gun on anyone who's not in the game. And then the lawyer, who's the defense lawyer for your man, who's like introduced early on, and he's meant to be played sleazy and he's all the rest. And
typical lawyer kind of.
And he has all this whole thing where he's like, why should we trust you? You're a parasite. You thrive on the corruption and the death in the city. And he's like, no more than you.
Yeah.
And your man's like, what? And
Because
he's like,
this lawyer is defending an accused murderer.
and he's like,
right?
I got the shotgun, you got the briefcase. Yeah. It's all in the game, though, right? And the lawyer just looks at the judge, and the judge is like, right? It's like,
for someone who hasn't seen the show, it sounds like that they're trying to make a point about this idea of myth, this idea of kind of when you're saying building a brand, to me that's building a mythology behind someone, and the idea of him walking in the street whistling. There's that old kind of story about some Asian warlord or general back in the day, and he sent his army out, and another army comes over the hill and is going to try and take his town and take his like walled city, and he's kind of looking and goes, my army is away, and like this could end badly, and there's no winning strategy here, we're going to be in for a tough one. So he just opened all the gates, sat in the gateway, tuned up a mandolin, just started playing a little tune to himself, and he saw the scouts come over the hill and look at him and disappear back over the hill, and the army never showed up. He said, no, he's clearly defended. Like he wouldn't have the balls to put himself at risk like that.
Something like that happens to Omar, right? So it gets to the point where he just he can walk up to where the stash house is, and he knows exactly where they are, and he'll just stand there and he's like, don't make me come in there. And they'll drop a bag of drugs out the window, and then he just picks it up and walks off. And then there's a thing in like, I think it's like season 3 or 4, where he wakes up one morning.
Bag of drugs is the best term.
It's like him and his father, and then he wakes up and he's like, he gets up and he gets dressed, but he's wearing like medium blue silk billowy pajamas and housecoat, right?
Yeah.
And there's just pajama bottoms and then the jacket.
Slippers or something like
and slippers, right?
Slippers
and he goes in to make himself some cereal, and there's a running gag with him where he's like, he's obsessed with Honey Nut Cheerios, and he's like, there's no Honey Nut Cheerios actually, for fuck's sake. And he picks up the gun and he's trying to tuck it into his belt, but he's wearing like pajamas, so they keep falling out, and he's like, fuck it, and he just puts the gun back and picks up his smokes and walks out. And this is the first time he's gone outdoors when he's unarmed, and he walks into the store, and he grabs his food, his Newports, and then he's heading back, and he's walking on, and at one point he just walks over, and he's like, everyone see Omar coming, and they all run. No one thinks he's wearing pajamas. Omar in pajamas coming.
Yeah.
And he walks over, and he's just standing there, and he's like, the street's deserted, and he lights a cigarette, and then just a bag of drugs falls beside him, and he's like, and he picks it up, and he walks back and walks in, and he dumps it on the thing, and there's like $4,000 worth of drugs. He's like, I don't even want this shit. It's like,
that's brilliant.
It's the legend took over.
And
So anyway, that's TV. Jonny, what would your film be?
So, for my films, again, I do genuinely have this thing where my absolute least favorite intro to a movie is if you start with news opening. Like it's pretty common with zombie movies. So it's like, we're on day 3 of the event and it's a news broadcast and this bullshit starts, because to me it's very, very lazy. And on top of that, I really hate voiceover starting. I find it very, very lazy.
All your one's voiceover.
Yeah, which is super annoying. Because I was like, fantastic ones. I was thinking of Train Spotting, and he does the Choose Life opening, and he's running from the cops, or not from the cops, but he's just running, and he gets hit with a car, and he starts laughing in the windshield. And I was like, well, I don't like voiceover, so I'm not going to do that.
So I'll do this voiceover.
And then I did Willy Wonka. That is an amazing intro. It's the best intro moment for a character ever. Where after
the Gene Wilder,
the not the remake,
the one.
But he's not the protagonist. Charlie Bucket is the protagonist who goes on and just it's an intro to a character. But that moment where he's frail and you've been hearing all these crazy stories about him, and then he does a tumble and you realize you don't know. You've heard all these stories, you don't know anything about the character. So I just went with The Big Lebowski.
Fucker! That's what I was going with.
Well, I'll do Trainspotting and be like, but the idea that. I was like, oh god, this voiceover is so lazy, and then I realised it's an intro to a lazy protagonist. The idea that he is the laziest man in Los Angeles County, which would put him high and running for laziest worldwide. And my favourite moment in it is because he's smelling milk. He's in a ratty dressing gown. He's in jelly shoes.
The shorts on.
And it kind of does the setting as well. It's the 90s. You can see George Bush Sr. talking on the television, and he signs a check for 60 cents to buy a carton of milk. He's got milk on his
I believe it's 67 cents.
Is it 67?
So it's like some exact figure.
And he's got milk on his mustache, and like where he's been clearly drinking the milk he's now buying.
Just when you were saying about the laziness thing, I did see something yesterday. It's not related to this, but it could be. It could be. This is something that we're talking about on a poster. This could be on a Big Lebowski poster. If there was an Olympic, if laziness was an Olympic event, I'd probably come fourth, so I didn't have to go up to the podium.
That's brilliant. I went through a lot of action movies and a lot of 80s movies as well, because there's something very bombastic and cocaine-y about the kind of 80s movies. And even kids movies from the 80s, like Marty McFly and stuff like that. Like
I'm sure there's loads of cocaine in that.
Yeah. You guy shows up wearing 3 shirts and a body warmer and acid wash jeans and plays an electric guitar that fires him across the room. You're like, I get it, he's radical, fantastic. Thank you, that's very useful.
But
so was Ghost in the Shell well received?
Yes and no. So here's the thing, there was a load of, since we're talking about, there was a load of people kicking off on the internet because, oh my god, they're whitewashing the character. Because they've cast a Western woman to play a Japanese character. Masamune Shirow, the guy who created the character, the guy who created the original book over 20 years ago, has stated she is meant to look American because the cyborgs are analogues for cars. If you want muscle cars, if you want combat-ready cars, you get American. All the hackers are Japanese because finesse, precision, technology is Japanese ones. And then I think there's a mention that the athlete ones are all Italian. Because they're sports cars.
Oh, right.
So he has said, I designed her to look like an American woman. Her body
she
is
in the comic, like?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, she's meant to look like an American woman.
I think that's just a case then of internet people being fucking...
Well, yeah, no, it's people getting...
to complain about.
Yeah, it's people getting up in arms when they haven't fully researched the subject and basically don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Because, and you're like... And the same for Bato, her partner. It's played by an American. Again, because he's a military-grade cyborg. He's meant to be... able to, all the guys in that who are military grade are Americanized looking, but all the ones who are more hacking or diplomacy or anything like that, where their bodies are built for it because their specializations they have and stuff, they'll be more Japanese in appearance. And it's been like that in the comics, and it's like that in the TV series, it's like that in the films. So, but it was only when it went live action, people were like, and it's like, shut the fuck up, you whiny prick. They have no idea what they're talking about, but anyway, just her intro in that live action is actually a mix of the two.
Right.
Because like I said, in the original film, it's a guy trying to defect, a programmer trying to defect. In the TV series, it's a geisha house. Right. And there's a member of the government in there.
That because it's just more stylish, presumably, to...
Well, that's in the films. Yeah. In the live action film, it's the cybernetic geishas that are serving these various diplomats and stuff get taken over. So it's more of a nod to that.
Cybernetic geishas.
Yeah. Because it's all the tea ceremony.
Kev shifted in his seat there in a very meaningful way.
I am open to cybernetic.
So it's like, I have a new fetish now.
I hope this doesn't awaken anything.
And it's a phenomenally good intro for a female protagonist. Because normally it's like with Ripley and the likes of that, or Sarah Connor, the other kind of great female protagonists of the last 20, 30 years, a lot of the time it's that they get there by, they're just regular folk, and then something mental happens and they just get their shit together and deal with it. Whereas she's more like the Wonder Woman approach of I was fucking made to deal with this shit. Yeah. But it's
that's interesting because with Ripley it's almost like she's always set up to have to hammer home a bit more that she's not, just a girl hanging with the boys or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, the film almost has to hammer home a bit harder to you, the viewer, that, actually she's a badass and you need to understand that quickly, right?
Famously, the film just needed to say this person is a badass because they wrote it gender neutral. They wrote the game. Yes. They wrote the film just using surnames and gave it to someone. And I'm sure I mentioned this in a previous podcast or conversation, and our lives are bleeding together at this point.
Yeah, it's true.
But the idea that somebody went, we'll cast a woman, and that nobody in the chain said, no, don't do that. Let's make it a man. Everyone just went, all right. I really need to go find whoever it was made that decision and thank everybody in the chain after that. Yeah. That nobody said, would you not use a man?
No, I didn't realise that was the...
Yeah, it's the whole how you sell things, and just on the terms of film, it's like, there's a story, I don't know if it's apocryphal or not, but it's the story of how David Fincher got the green light on Fight Club.
Right.
And he made 7, and it was critical success, and it done well at the box office, and
I loved it the first time I watched it, and then I watched it again a couple of years ago. I was like,
it didn't age great.
I'm not enjoying this.
Yeah. I think part of it
I
was
think
the whole
audience didn't age great.
yeah, well, but so he went in and he was like, so I've got my thing narrowed down to 2 films. Brad Pitt's on board. He wants to work with me again. He says he's happy to do these. So he has the star power behind him, and he's grand. And they're like, so what are they? And he goes, okay, so first one, we start off exterior hospital. It's nighttime. It's fairly quiet. There's there's one ambulance in the bay. That kind of thing. It cuts around towards the side, and there's a sign beside the door saying morgue. And then it goes inside, and you can see it's a corridor, kind of that neon white, blue bleached out effect. There's a door at the end. You see someone walking by the door, but it's frosted glass. Cuts to inside the morgue. It's looking at the left hand wall. All the cases are open. Half pulled out. There's bodies on them, and you can hear like stuff moving and grunts of exertion, and then they become more rhythmic. It cuts to the right, and the guy has one of the bodies out of the bag, and he's fucking it. And the guy's like, it's bold, but I mean, you just did 7 people. Will kind of know anything's fair game if we stick a hard rating on this. Okay, so who catches this guy? He's like, you don't understand. This is the good guy. And they were like, okay, and he goes, I got this other film called Fight Club. And now I don't know, like I've read about that in an Empire Total Film or one of those.
Yeah.
But it's the whole thing of like, how about that for a protagonist intro?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That would be
like
astounding.
And if it was the protagonist, it's probably Brad Pitt. So that's
Well, it's not a lesson on how to pitch where you do something so outlandish and horrible that no matter what the second thing is, they'll accept it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's that, it's a negotiation. You go in, you don't care about the first 3 things on your list. It's the fourth one is the one you want properly. Like,
have you seen Bobcat Goldthwait's movie God Bless America?
No, I love Bobcat Goldthwait, but no, I haven't seen it.
His
you know who Bobcat Goldthwait is? Please get him.
Oh, please get me right. Yeah.
That's my Bjork impression, yeah? He has a film called God Bless America. It feels like a Charlie Brooker rant. Like it's this misanthropic look at America, this pure satire about like American Idol culture and everybody like worshipping stupidity. If it was in a double bill with Idiocracy, it would feel probably at home. But the opening scene is this dude who's like just got a bunch of shit from work, and everybody's watching like a singing contest at work, and he doesn't give a fuck about it, and he goes home and he can hear his neighbors fighting, and like the dude hit the girl and the baby crying, and it just goes into a fantasy montage of him kind of leaving work, this kind of thing. It feels very falling down this mad thing. But there's a bit where he just kicks in his neighbour's door, smash it in, and it goes into slow motion, and music starts playing, and everyone spins, and they see the gun, and the woman throws the baby in the air in fright, and he just shotguns it out of the air. And I forgot that moment was in that movie, because then that fantasy moment ends and it goes back to his life.
Yeah.
And then the movie becomes this indictment of America as it stands. I said that to my friend, and he went and watched the movie, and at that moment he paused it, rang me and said, "What have you done? Why did you tell me to watch this?" He was like, "I am so freaked out right now." He's like, "I've never been so unhappy in my entire life." And I was like, "Yeah, I forgot about that. Cheers." It's a startling moment. It's a startling way to say this is the character you're going to be following for the rest of this journey.
Kev, your film was Lebowski, apparently.
It was the Big Lebowski, yeah, but I had a couple of others that I was thinking about. I mean, I think there's one that is probably the most obvious, certainly for anyone in or around our age group, is Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? I mean,
yep.
It's so obvious you almost don't want to talk about it, right? That whole golden idol scene and, the escape from that thing, and you had that kind of rough and ready guy who was out and he had his whip and he was, in the cave, he gets betrayed by the guy and it's all a big mess. But then you see he's actually an academic as well. And it's like, hey, this guy is brains, and he's also the kind of, dashing, strong, capable adventurer type.
Is that the one, or is it one of the later ones where one of his students keeps blinking and she has "love you" or something written on her eyes?
She has "love you" on her eyes, which means he's not just academic; he's also sexy, apparently.
Yeah, well, it's Harrison Ford at that point. Like, did they have to explain to people that no, like this man?
Like Harrison Ford just looks like he knows how to deal with all this very weird
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah.
and it works perfectly, and the music swells, and it's just like, by the time he's on the plane, you know so much about this character.
It's not even that he looks like he knows what he's doing. He looks pissed off that he has to bother.
Yes.
It's so much like, oh God, not this.
Yeah.
You know,
I think that's,
nothing surprises
that
him.
is
It's
perfect.
like,
That's exactly what he's like. Yeah.
the actual one that, again, it was an established character, but it's the first moment that you properly see them. And again, in gaming, it's so often done with like a little cutscene.
Yes.
So it actually happens a couple of minutes in, and it's Batman from the Arkham Knight. And all hell's broken loose. So you got this really creepy. You got the cutscene where you got the Scarecrow voiced by John Noble, Denethor.
That was the third one, right? Yeah, I didn't play that one.
So he comes out and he's like he's now got himself surgically altered. So the gas mask part of his face is bolted onto his face now. So the entire all the flesh is gone from his lower jaw. You can just see the sinews and the muscles, and he's got like the rag is kind of half hanging over his face, but you can see his mouth. And it's John Noble's voice. And he's doing full sinister John Noble. You're like, this is amazing. And he basically says, I'm giving everyone 24 hours to get out of the city, because after that, the city is mine. And everyone panics and gets the fuck out. So to the point where Batman's trying to, like, near the start, you're whipping around the place, and you come across these two bad guys, and you beat the crap, you knock one guy out, and you beat the other guy up, and you're holding him, and you're like, you ask him some questions. He's like, I'll tell you. And he's like, right. If I find out you're lying, I'll be back to break your other wrist. He's like, my other wrist, and then he just snaps his wrist. And it's just real, like, he's holding him one-handed, and he's like, I'll be back to break your other wrist, snap, and the guy's like, ah! And just falls down, and I'm like, it's beautiful. It's like, because at this point, it's meant to be the whole thing of, Batman is well established, he knows exactly what he's about, and he is taking zero fucking, that's he's taking zero prisoners. Nobody dies in that. When you hit them with your 4-ton tank at 80 mile an hour, it's explained that there's electric bumpers, and the electric field repulses them away while knocking them out. It's like, yes, I definitely don't kill someone when I hit them that hard. And that
knocks them out into a puddle of water face down where they slowly drown.
It's like, I literally slid that guy in, I paraslided the Batmobile into that guy and pinned him against the building. He's just sleeping. It's totally fine.
The building also has a field.
Yeah.
A cushion field.
But it's that whole thing of like the other risk. Because again, in a lot of games, it's self-insertion, in that the character, the protagonist is meant to be a blank slate, and you become that. So but then there's only some things with the likes of Batman where everyone knows Batman is. So here he is, and also I think I liked it because it was a Batman thing where I didn't have to watch his fucking parents die.
They'd already covered that.
We've already covered it, but that's not going anywhere. Like, that's
5 minutes before we started, I decided my video games one was going to be Conker's Bad Fur Day.
God.
Which I played on the N64.
That's that squirrel.
It's the squirrel, and the story behind it is that Rare were making a game because Nintendo wanted to have a bunch of games coming out once which are quite cute. So they had a Diddy Kong game being worked on. I think they had Banjo-Kazooie being worked on, and Rare didn't know about those other games and were making a game about a squirrel. And they said, great, it'll really work well with our lineup of, you know, cute games that are coming out. And they went, right, okay. And they brought it back and said, everybody, whatever you're doing, we got to completely change it to make it memorable because we're going to get lost. So they did, like, you know, if you've played through it, there's an entire Matrix sequence. There's a Saving Private Ryan sequence.
Yeah.
There's a sequence where you're trying to put pacifist bees around a sunflower that has very large breasts because she's covering her breasts with leaves. But when the bees go around her, she starts batting at them with one hand, and if you get enough bees around her, she bats at them with both hands, and you get to look at her breasts.
That's a real thing.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
There's a bit where you throw toilet paper into the mouth of a giant shit creature to try and rescue a piece of corn that is inside him, but is perfectly safe because he can't be digested.
It's corn.
Right? There's so many weird points in that movie.
I'm disappointed I haven't played this.
And there's the remastered version for the Xbox, but the emulators out there, I would recommend going and playing it. And the opening sequence, because it's a ridiculously characterful game like this, it's so funny, is a Hangover. It starts with, you know, instead of the amnesia protagonist, it starts with the hungover protagonist, and it's him drunk, and he's drinking with like the Grim Reaper and a bunch of weird characters, and he's like fucking pissed out of his mind, and he rings his girlfriend, who's another sexy squirrel who's doesn't get his phone call, and it cuts to him walking outside and vomiting, and like as soon as you see the squirrel vomit, you realise that this is a particularly weird game. And I've
what was it, the rating on this game?
It was an R-rated game.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And then the game starts, and he has to do a tutorial, which he fucking hates, and he's hungover, so they make you walk twice as slow through the tutorial in order to get there because he fucking hates tutorials and he's too hungover. And the first thing you need to do is get some Alka-Seltzer for him, and that's their introduction to the character.
This is a 3D platformer, right?
This is a 3D platformer. It's like Mario 3D on the N64, and it is a delight of a game.
I need to look up some playthroughs of this game, man.
The bit
because like I got a PlayStation and I had very limited exposure to the N64, so
there's a bit with dung beetles in it who speak in a Scouse accent and use the word cunt liberally. And I'm pretty sure that nobody just was able to hear it because it was a Scouse accent. I think it just slipped through. There's so much in that game. After we finish recording, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna get YouTube and I'm gonna watch playthroughs. So yes, I would thoroughly recommend it. So that 5 minutes before we started recording, I realised that that's absolutely the best protagonist introduction in any game.
My mind's gonna seem so boring. Well, I had two, and both are equally boring after that. The first one is one of my favourite characters, one of my favourite game series. I have like a 14-inch polystone statue
of
Kratos, the god
fantastic.
of war. The intro
from the TV series or from the game series, God of War.
Yeah, because I love mythology, much like Omar, right? I love them myths, man. And you know the whole idea that you've got these cities in Greece and you've got Ares, the god of war, like just standing above the city, towering above it all, and you're Kratos, and your goal is to take that guy on. You know what I mean? And there's everything about that intro was just him being this badass, and then they give the backstory about the family and that whole thing, and you know it's just cool, and it's not incredibly deep or anything like that, but it doesn't need to be. You know, what I mean? Like this is a guy that has two blades, one in each hand. He can't do anything because he's always holding blades. And those blades have chains.
How does he wipe?
Yeah, those blades painfully. Those blades have chains on them that wrap around his wrist, and they're actually like burned into his wrists. And he throws the blade, and the chain extends, and he pulls back, and the whole thing is just vicious and brutal. And you know, I just love that character because he's just a badass. Kind of like you were talking about Ghost in the Shell earlier on.
Yeah.
How just straight away from the intro, you get a sense that this person is a badass. This is what they are built to do, right? Yeah. And with Kratos, you know that's just him. That's what he does. And the new game looks interesting because he's got a beard. He's got a kid beside him. I don't know whose kid it is, but it's kind of like ever since like The Last of Us. You know, you got to have that kid to tug at the heartstrings in games now. But he's still.
I'm sorry, Ashley Williams, Resident Evil 4. She's the one that it's her fault most of the time.
Yeah,
Ashley,
yeah.
yes, it's time to hide in the dumpster again. Okay.
yeah, that's fair.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Cheers.